does this mean the bigger companies are going to grow even faster because they're the ones to access to capital, or does it mean the smaller guy has more time now? I'm glad you brought up the dot-com boom, because the dot-com era, I remember it, but I wasn't in dental at the time. So what happened during that time, and how did the market adjust? Because basically you had a bunch of people with overinflated businesses that weren't really worth anything. They were just worth something on paper, and people were buying. It sounds like almost like the NFT market, right? Where it's just like people are buying and selling things that we don't really know what the actual values are. And then all of a sudden the bottom fell out. How did that impact dental?
Not at all. I mean, you just, at least for purposes of this discussion in 2022, I think did a real good job of, in about 10 seconds, describing the dot-com burst. We had things we didn't know what they were worth, and everybody was overpaying for them, thinking this new dot-com internet thing was going to just, and, it obviously was amazing for, society and the human race, but it didn't really play out in a lot of the valuations of a lot of these Johnny-come-lately. Everybody wanted to be a dot-com, and it really didn't turn out for a lot of companies. Like, for example, if you were Amazon back in 2000, you did incredibly well. If you were Apple, you did incredibly well. But if you were, I can't even think of one right now. There were so many of them.
There's a lot of them.
You kind of went out of business, and it ended like disastrously. One day your stock price was like, I don't know, $75. The next day it wasn't 60 or 50. It was like zero. You were like out of business. And, that's what happened. But how did that affect dentistry? Not at all. People went to the dentist, and they continued to go to the dentist. And when the subprime mortgage crisis happened in 2006 and people were losing their homes and you couldn't get money, it was a crisis. People still went to the dentist. So, dentistry is very resilient.
So from the patient standpoint, the general dentistry didn't really change. I know specialty took a hit in a haircut during some of those periods, but the general dentistry didn't really fluctuate that much. But how did it impact and we probably don't know this because the industry wasn't consolidating at that time the way that it is now. So let's forecast that. How is this going to impact the dental market? Does this mean the bigger companies are going to grow even faster because they're the ones to access to capital? Or does it mean the smaller guy has more time now because it's going to slow down the speed of the consolidation? What's your thoughts?
Well, what you're going to likely see is less competition for certain assets. Remember, competition drives up the price in and of itself. Even if, something's worth $1 and everybody agrees it's worth $1, but 10 people are bidding on it, it always ends up going up. There's two, primary criteria for valuations. One, a nuts and bolts, what is the thing worth based on established principles in the industry? And then the second one is what two people in an arm's length transaction will pay for it. And, competition usually drives things up. So there's going to be less competition. Some people are in a very strong financial position. When I say some people, some buyers, to be more precise, some private equity groups, some strategic DSOs, they've got really good credit facilities in place. Or they've got the cash to spend, and they're probably going to be okay. But a lot of buyers in the last 2 years, 3 years, were heavily reliant on credit facilities. And if the price to borrow money has gone up, they're going to be able to buy less, bid less, and not bid as much for assets. So it could end up, if there's less competition, with the prices being a little less for some of the assets out there. I'm hearing conflicting things. I'm hearing from banks right now. I'm hearing from some buyers that, things that were approved in the first quarter of this year that are now closing now, they're going ahead and closing. They were approved already. It's happening. But they're saying, hey, don't bring those deals to us in the third and fourth quarter because we're not gonna be able to do the same thing. I'm hearing, though, Gary, on the smaller end, onesies and twosies practices, smaller deals, maybe 10 million or less, are seeing little impact. The valuation are the same now as they were 6 months ago. But on the bigger side, you've got something with 5 or 6 million in EBITDA, and that could have been worth 50 or 60 million dollars easily, first quarter of this year. You might see that asset, go down 36, 40 million, wow. Somebody, and what I'm doing is I'm saying somebody might pay a 6 or a 7 or an 8 multiple instead of a 10 or 11 or 12 multiple now.